how did you first get hooked up with Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah, this was the preseason of NFL preseason of 2016. So I think important context for that is it's a couple of months out of the election, which is we're in another election year, which is interesting. And obviously it was Team Hillary versus Team Trump, and our country had already experienced quite a bit of division leading up to this moment anyway. I felt like we were already being kind of pulled apart, which is frustrating, as I think almost any person who served in the military will tell you, regardless of their politics. Most of us we want unity, man. We want our country to be together. We want them to support us and feel that. And it didn't feel like that in our society at the time. And, and then Colin started sitting on the bench during the national anthem, protesting police brutality, social inequality, social injustice, racial inequality. And, he made that pretty clear. But, of course, with social media becoming now the mainstream media, it doesn't matter because people see an image or take a little soundbite or something, and it's just the narrative changes. And 3.5 years later now, as we can see, that the narrative, it's still hard to stay on task here and keep the narrative what it's supposed to be. Keep it real. So anyway, I wrote this open letter to Colin, explaining my experiences in the military, explaining why I feel the way that I do during the anthem and why I stand with my hand in my heart and feel a certain way, but also like I don't know what it's like to feel like you feel, and I'll never pretend. For me to pretend to feel what it's like to be a person of color in this country is as ignorant as someone telling me they know what it's like to go to war that has never served a day in the military. And so I think it resonated with Colin, and he reached out to me and he wanted to meet. So I went down to San Diego before the final preseason game of 2016, and it's military appreciation night because 9/11 was approaching. There's a flyover, Navy SEALs jumping into the stadium. There's this Navy band on the field with an African-American man going to sing the national anthem, and this whole thing is going on. And Colin, and I are chatting a few hours before the game in the hotel lobby. And, we talk about some of the things I just discussed, like both of our backgrounds, why he feels the way that he feels, why I feel the way that I feel. But, more than anything, I was just trying to listen to where he was coming from with all this. And he was pretty clear on that. And I understood. And he's also very clear that he's in saying that, look, I've committed to not standing until I see things change. I'm not going to. And I said, okay, I respect that. I mean, at the end of the day, when I took an oath to defend the Constitution, that includes the First Amendment and freedom of speech, and everybody that served in the military, that's what we fought for. We don't have to agree with it. We don't have to like it all the time, but we fought for these rights, and so I respect that. And he asked me at the end of this conversation, do you think there's another way I could demonstrate, I could show my protest without offending people in the military? And I said, no. There's nothing you can do that's not going to offend some people. And I said, even if you stood at this point, you're going to offend some people. People are going to think that, you gave up on your protest. You're not committed. You're not a man of conviction. So, I said the only other thing I could think of, to me, and I don't speak for the military or the veteran community or anybody but myself, to me, I think being alongside your teammates is the most important thing. And if that's the case and you're not going, and you said you're not going to stand, I think the only other option you really have is taking a knee. And it's, people take a knee to pray and propose to their wives, and, we'll take a knee in front of a fallen brother's grave to pay respect in the military. It's it's a common sign of respect. And he agreed that was more powerful. He asked me if I'd join him. I told him, I want to stand because of the way that I feel. And I don't want to kneel, but I'll stand next to you because I support what you're doing and you're right. And I also want to see this country be better and get better. And so I did that. And that was the first night he ever knelt. And obviously it's pretty cool today, this last week, to see a lot of people in the community that don't look like him, law enforcement officers take a knee at times. And it's been a unifying symbol in a lot of ways, which is ironic because a lot of people saw that as the complete opposite when it first happened.
Nate Boyer here on the Rich Eisen Show, Green Beret, and also co-founder of Merging Vets and Players with Jay Glazer, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Did at any point Colin say, I don't like the military to you?
No.
Never.
No.
Right? So, you know what? I guess you heard my sigh. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you were standing next to him that night, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what did he say anything to you after the anthem? Look at you. Did you share a moment? What happened after that moment?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, he was nervous going into it, and so was I. And I understand his nerves. You know what I mean? Mine, I think a little bit less. I understood it at the time. I think I was just like, didn't know what to expect. I also was like worried about my brotherhood, the Special Forces community specifically, because more than anything, besides probably my parents, I hate disappointing them and having them feel like I'm not representing them in a good way. So I was nervous about that, and that's kind of a selfish thing because it's not that big a deal. It's not like that. That's not a. It's not the same as like why he's taking the knee. That was just a selfish. Like I want people to like me. But I was nervous about that, and then to hear some of the people in the stand boo, and I heard that. That's what I heard over everything else. And that wasn't the majority of people booing. It probably wasn't even that many people. But that's what I focused on, and that bothered me. That bothered me a lot more than anybody taking a knee. You know what I mean? And and then after it happened, after the anthem was done, he stood up. He gave me 5. He had a bit of a nervous smile on his face.
Right.
Maybe it was because he was starting that night and he's trying to win his job back. I don't know.
Yeah, sure, could be.
But I felt that too, and I was like, man, this is. But I felt proud too. I also felt proud after it was over, and he was like out on the field, and then other players on the team, white, black, doesn't matter. They were coming up to me and shaking my hand, saying nice to meet you, appreciate what you're doing. I had a nice conversation with Torrey Smith, who was on the Niners at the time, and so that was cool. That was very settling for me, and I felt like I belonged on that sideline, in a lot of ways. And anyway, that was the emotions of the day, and I wouldn't change a thing.